When the world is watching, you have two choices: stand tall or shrink back. And when the spotlight hit, Jaishankar didn't just stand tall, he stood like a mountain, and the world had to look up. Confidence is the ultimate weapon. It's not something you can buy, borrow, or fake for long. Real confidence comes from building yourself up piece by piece through sweat, through discipline, through relentless practice. You can see it the moment someone walks into the room. Their shoulders are back, their head is high, and their eyes lock in like they already know they belong there. That's what we saw when Jaishankar stepped onto that stage. No nervous shifting, no fumbling with papers, no darting eyes looking for approval. He owned the air around him before he even said a single word. Confidence isn't about being the loudest, it's about being the most certain. When you know your mission, when you know the truth you're standing for, you don't have to shout to make people listen. Your presence demands it. Every move he made showed that. His voice didn't rise in panic or drop in fear. It carried the calm power of someone who knows the facts, knows the stakes, and knows exactly what he wants to say. And that's why every sentence hit like a hammer. Not because he tried to impress, but because he spoke with the authority of someone who is already convinced. Most people think confidence is a feeling you wait for, like a lightning bolt that suddenly strikes and turns you into a champion. That's not how it works. You don't wait for confidence. You create it. You create it by doing the work over and over, by preparing so much that the stage feels like your home. You walk out there not wondering if you can handle it, but knowing you've already handled bigger storms in the dark when nobody was watching. That's the kind of preparation that turns nerves into energy. That's why when he was facing some of the most powerful voices in the world, there was no flinch, no crack in the armor. Confidence is also about refusing to be defined by the other side's strength. Too many people shrink the moment they stand next to a so-called giant. They start thinking about what the other person has, their influence, their reputation, their power, and they forget what they themselves bring to the table. But true confidence says, I don't care who you are, I know who I am. That's the energy that flips the room. That's the energy that makes even the so-called giants start questioning themselves. When you're confident, you don't need to hide behind big words or complicated explanations. You can say things simply, clearly, and they will still hit harder than anything dressed up in fancy language. Because people don't just hear your words, they feel the weight behind them. They feel that you believe every single syllable you're speaking, and belief is contagious. The moment you speak with absolute certainty, others start to believe too, even your opponents. And let me tell you something. Confidence without arrogance is a rare and dangerous combination. Arrogance is brittle, it breaks under pressure, but confidence built on preparation and purpose, that's unbreakable. That's why no matter how many eyes were watching, no matter how many were hoping for a stumble, there was none. Every word was a step forward, every answer a strike that landed clean. He wasn't there to prove he belonged. He was there to show that the moment belonged to him. And that's what separates those who merely show up from those who dominate the stage. Preparation beats power every single time. People get blinded by titles, by positions, by the size of the opponent in front of them. They think power is about who has the biggest army, the loudest voice, or the most influence. But in the real world, the one who's prepared will dismantle the one who's just relying on status. Preparation is the equalizer. Preparation turns the so-called underdog into the one who controls the fight. You could see it in every move Jaishankar made. This wasn't improvisation. This wasn't him just walking in and hoping for the best. This was the execution of hours, days, months, maybe years of understanding the game, studying the battlefield, and knowing exactly where to strike. When you prepare, you eliminate the element of surprise, not because nothing surprises you, but because you've already run the scenarios in your mind. You've already seen the questions they might throw. You've already dissected the angles they might take. And by the time you're in the moment, it's not unfamiliar territory, it's home turf. That's the difference between walking into the room feeling nervous and walking into the room feeling like you own the place. Preparation makes that shift happen before you even open your mouth. The thing about relying solely on power is it makes people lazy. They think their position will carry them. They think their reputation is enough to intimidate or silence others. But that's exactly why preparation wins. Because the one who's prepared has done the heavy lifting before the lights came on. They've sharpened their tools, tightened their strategy, and built up the mental endurance to go the distance. So when the moment comes, they're not scrambling to react, they're executing a plan. That's what we saw. Every response was not only accurate, but timed to perfection. No wasted words, no wasted energy, just precision strikes. Preparation also builds a calmness that power alone can't buy. When you've studied the terrain, when you've put in the hours to know your material inside out, you don't get rattled, you don't start second-guessing yourself. You can stand in the middle of the storm and keep your voice steady because you've already been through storms in training. The stage becomes just another version of what you've already conquered in private. That's why while others might have been calculating how to defend themselves, he was already attacking with confidence and clarity. It's like stepping into the ring. If you've done your conditioning, drilled your combinations, and learned every counter in the book, then when you're face to face with the opponent, you're not scared of their size or speed. You know exactly what to do when they move left, when they move right, when they throw a punch. You're not reacting in panic, you're responding with intention. That's the mindset of preparation, and that's why someone with less raw power on paper can still walk away the victor. Preparation also means knowing yourself as much as knowing the opponent. You have to understand your own strengths, your own weaknesses, and how to use them. You can't just memorize lines, you have to understand the heart of what you're saying so deeply that no matter how the conversation shifts, you can adapt without losing your ground. That's what separates the amateurs from the masters. The master doesn't just stick to a script, they own the material so completely that they can maneuver anywhere and still land exactly where they want to. And here's the truth, the one who's prepared controls the pace of the fight. They don't let the other side dictate the rhythm. They decide when to push, when to pause, when to land the knockout. That's why preparation is the real power. It's invisible until the moment comes, and then it's unstoppable. Never bow to intimidation. The moment you let fear dictate your actions, you've already handed over the victory. Intimidation is a weapon used by those who want to control the fight without actually engaging in it. They rely on their presence, their tone, their history to make you shrink before the first word is even spoken. But when you refuse to bow, when you stand your ground no matter how large the shadow in front of you, that's when the balance of power starts to shift. Jaishankar showed exactly what that looks like. The pressure on that stage was massive, the stakes were high, and the eyes of the world were waiting for any crack in his composure, but there was none. He didn't flinch, didn't lean back, didn't soften his words to avoid stepping on toes. He met every challenge head on. The thing about intimidation is that it feeds on reaction. The more you show you're affected, the stronger it grows. If you hesitate, if your voice wavers, if your body language says you're second-guessing yourself, the other side can smell it. That's when they push harder. That's when they try to box you in and dominate the conversation. But when you train yourself to face pressure without breaking, you take that power away from them. You stand tall, you keep your voice steady, and you make it clear that no matter how loud they get, no matter how close they lean in, you're not moving an inch. It's not about pretending you're not aware of the pressure. You feel it, everyone feels it, but the difference is in what you do with it. The weak let pressure crush them. The strong let pressure forge them. When you face intimidation and refuse to bend, it builds a kind of strength that can't be faked. Every time you resist, you're training your mind to handle even more next time. It becomes muscle memory. You stop seeing powerful opponents as something to fear, and you start seeing them as opportunities to test and prove yourself. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that the way to deal with intimidation is to match it with aggression. That's not strength. That's insecurity wearing armor. True strength is being so secure in yourself that you don't need to posture or overcompensate. You simply exist in your full presence, and it's enough. That's what disarms intimidation faster than anything. The realization that their tactics aren't working, that you're operating on your own terms, not theirs. Intimidation also often comes with the attempt to overwhelm you with speed, with rapid questions, with layered accusations, with a flood of information designed to trip you up. This is where control becomes critical. You slow things down, you breathe, you respond on your timing, not theirs. You don't let the chaos outside dictate the clarity inside. That kind of composure doesn't come from luck, it comes from years of building inner discipline. When you show you can't be intimidated, something interesting happens. The people trying to rattle you start to respect you, even if they don't like you, because deep down everyone understands the kind of mental toughness it takes to stay solid under fire. And once you've shown you won't bow, every interaction after that is different. You're no longer just another person to be pushed around. You're someone who stands like a wall, someone who can't be moved no matter how strong the storm becomes. Respect comes from action, not titles. You can have the highest position in the world, you can sit on the biggest stage, you can have 100 people introduce you with praise, but none of that means a thing if your actions don't back it up. Titles are printed on paper, but respect is written in the way you carry yourself, the way you handle pressure, the way you deliver when it matters most. People might applaud you for your role, but they only truly respect you for your performance. Jaishankar didn't just walk in as a representative with an important title, he walked in as a man ready to prove his worth through every single moment, every single word. The thing about relying on a title is that it makes you complacent. You start thinking the position will do the work for you. You believe the introductions, the fancy nameplates, the recognition alone will win people over. But respect is not handed out just because of where you sit. It's earned in real time, in the heat of the moment when eyes are on you and the stakes are real. That's when your actions either confirm your worth or expose the weakness behind the title. Action is what turns a leader from someone people obey into someone people follow willingly. And action doesn't mean grand gestures all the time. Sometimes it's the smallest choices, keeping your word when it's inconvenient, standing up when it's risky, staying calm when chaos is closing in. These are the moments where people decide in their hearts if you're worth their respect. You can't demand it, you have to show it. And the way Jaishankar handled that stage was a masterclass in showing it. He didn't throw his title around to intimidate anyone. He didn't remind the world of his position. He let the strength of his presence, his clarity, and his execution speak louder than any label ever could. There's also a big difference between someone who acts for applause and someone who acts because it's the right thing to do. When your actions are driven by the need for approval, they lose their power. They become calculated for image instead of rooted in truth. But when your actions come from conviction, from a deep understanding of what you stand for, they carry a weight that everyone can feel. People can sense authenticity. They can tell when someone is speaking because they have to, and when someone is speaking because they believe in every word they say. That authenticity is what earns respect that lasts. Another truth is that action cuts through doubt. You can be underestimated, you can be criticized, you can be questioned, but the moment you step up and deliver, all of that fades. No one can argue with results. No one can deny effectiveness when they see it in front of them. That's why a person without a title but with strong, consistent actions can command more respect than someone with all the titles in the world but nothing to show for it. Respect also grows when people see you willing to take responsibility. Anyone can bask in credit when things go well. It's when things get hard, when mistakes are made, when situations turn messy, that's when real respect is on the line. The ones who step up, who own the moment, instead of hiding behind excuses, are the ones people remember. On that stage, every answer, every statement was taken head on. There was no dodging, no shifting blame, no hiding behind safe language. It was direct, it was firm, and it was decisive. That's the kind of action that builds respect, not just in the moment, but long after the lights go down. A victory is in the mind before it's in reality. Long before the audience hears a single word, long before the cameras start rolling, the real battle is already decided inside your head. If you step onto the stage wondering if you can win, you've already put yourself at a disadvantage. But if you walk in already convinced that the outcome is yours, every move, every glance, every choice will reflect that certainty. That's the difference between someone who's hoping for a good result and someone who's already living in it. Jaishankar didn't just arrive prepared. He arrived with the mindset that the conversation would go his way, no matter how big the opposition looked. The truth is, most people lose before they even start. They sabotage themselves with doubt, with hesitation, with a quiet voice that says, "What if I'm not enough?" That voice is the enemy. And if you don't silence it before you face the world, it will take control. The second things get difficult. Winning in your mind first means deciding that there is no alternative. You remove the backup plans, the escape routes, the excuses. You commit so deeply to the vision of victory that it becomes the only reality you allow yourself to see. That kind of commitment shapes the way you carry yourself. When you believe in the win before it happens, you don't react to challenges like they're threats. You see them as part of the path. Every objection becomes an opportunity to reinforce your point. Every attempt to corner you becomes a chance to take control. This isn't about arrogance, it's about certainty. And certainty is magnetic. People gravitate towards someone who speaks and moves like the outcome is already in their hands. Even opponents start to sense it, and that sense starts to chip away at their confidence. The mental victory also keeps you calm when the heat turns up, when others get flustered, when they stumble over their words, when they start scrambling for answers. The one who has already decided to win remains composed. The pace doesn't control them, they control the pace. This mental control is often what breaks the other side, because they realize they can't throw you off balance. Once they realize that, their own balance starts to slip. Another power of winning in your mind, first, is that it changes the way you prepare. You don't prepare from a place of fear, trying to cover every possible disaster. You prepare from a place of strength, knowing that your preparation is building the reality you've already claimed. This creates a different energy entirely, one that is proactive, not defensive. You're not reacting to the possibility of losing, you're building the certainty of winning. That shift in energy makes you sharper, faster, and more decisive. And when the moment comes, the mental victory gives you something no script can presence. You're not in your head second-guessing every move. You're locked in, fully engaged with the moment, responding with clarity and precision. The audience feels it, the opponents feel it, and most importantly, you feel it. That's when performance becomes effortless, not because it's easy, but because you've removed every mental barrier that could hold you back. The body and the voice simply follow the mind's command, and the victory that's already been decided inside begins to unfold for the world to see.